Welcome back to the best training channel on YouTube. Today is day 2 of the combine training program. It's going to be a lower body day. We're going to jump. We're going to lift some weights. It's going to be a fun one. So I'm going to knock out a few more sets of these, get the legs prepped, and we're going to start off with some hang clean pulls today. All right, first thing that is on the menu for today is we're going to be doing a hang clean pull variation. I'm going to be doing my sets at about 155, which is about 80% of what my 1 rep max is, or my estimated 1 rep max. So I'm estimating my 1 rep max to be about 195, considering the fact that I power cleaned 185 off of blocks a few weeks ago. I feel like from the floor I could probably put on 5 to 10 kilos on that. So I'm going to be estimating it at 195. We're going to go at 80%. The sets and reps today is going to be, we're going to be doing sets of 2 by 2. So what that means is we're going to stand up with the bar. This hang clean is going to be from about the knee position. So we're going to go to the knee. We're going to do 2. Then we're going to take about a 15-20-second break. We're going to pick the bar back up and we're going to do 2 more. And that's going to be the hang clean pulls today. So as I'm warming up with this bar being as light as it is, I'm going to be able to kind of accelerate that bar and get my hands really high up. Look like I'm almost kind of doing like an upright row as I do this. As the bar starts to get heavy, what I'm really going to be focusing on is getting into that bottom position and trying to explode and get to here as much as possible. So I don't care if the arms actually rise up once this bar starts getting heavy. I'm just kind of over exaggerating it right now to kind of work on pulling the bar and making it feel like it's staying close to it. Even though when you're doing a clean or even a power clean, you're never going to be on, full extension and pulling the bar all the way up here. That position never happens. Once you get to full extension, you start to pull yourself down to get to the bar. You don't continue to pull the bar up. So even though it's not technically a correct way to do a pull, I'm just doing that as I warm up. And then as the bar gets heavier, all I'm really focused on is getting from that bottom position and the hang into that top extension position as quickly as possible. Get back down to the bottom and explode. We're going to try to use that momentum as we get down to the bottom to kind of overload that eccentric portion just a little bit, because we have to actually decelerate the bar, stop it, and then change direction and go back up. So that's why we're going to go 1, 2, drop the bar, 1, 2 again. All right, I'm going to count this as my first working set. So 150 on the bar. I'm going to do 2 clean pulls, rest, 2 clean pulls. Try to be reactive out of that bottom position. Try to get in and get out as quickly as possible. But the first few sets, the warm-up sets, felt a little bit awkward. So I have a feeling these aren't going to be the greatest. That actually wasn't too bad. It didn't feel as terrible as I thought it would. Not too shabby. Good first set. We'll do a couple more and then we're gonna move on to back squats after this. Real quick, the reason why I'm doing 2-2, if I were to be doing sets of 4, that by trying to get in and out of that bottom position multiple times, I'm more likely to get pulled out of position. So I want my reps to be as clean as possible. So by doing 2 and 2 allows me to do 2 solid reps. If it feels off, I have that break where I can kind of reevaluate and go, okay, I felt like it was too far back. Maybe I was too far forward. Maybe I didn't hit extension the way I needed to. So I can fix that on the next 2. I get a little bit of feedback for it, and then I can do my next 2 reps And if there is anything to correct, hopefully correct those and just get more quality in there. So you could do sets of 4 if you wanted to, but I'm just going 2-2. You could do singles if you wanted to as well. It doesn't matter. I don't really feel like focusing on getting in and out of that bottom position does a tremendous amount other than just kind of train positions through dynamic movement. But I don't really have any data because I don't have measurables here, but I don't really have any data that there's a significant, increase in strength or increase in ability to produce force or whatever it is by training specifically to try to get in and out of those bottom positions. I just know it feels good and I like doing it. So that's the reason why I throw it in there. That was a much better set. So one thing, when I say I'm trying to overload that eccentric portion, I think a lot of people misunderstand what overload means. Overload doesn't mean to like do more than you can handle or to try to like continuously add weight and to the point where you can't do anymore. Like overload just means in comparison to whatever it is that you're doing. So if I want to overload the eccentric, and meaning put a little bit more emphasis on trying to either control the eccentric or accelerate the eccentric or try to get to the position where you're producing more force to decelerate during an eccentric phase, so like stop the downward motion. Overload means comparison to what? So when I'm saying I'm overloading the eccentric, what I'm trying to do is allow that top of the pole almost to become a free fall and create as much speed on that eccentric motion, and then I'm going to try to decelerate the bar as quickly as possible and change direction to get into my next repetition. So that I'm saying overload that eccentric portion, all I'm doing is really allowing the bar to move faster than me controlling the eccentric and going into a clean pull. So if I were to do a normal clean pull and just kind of like control the eccentric and then explode through, overloading the eccentric could be a variable of what I'm going to do is accelerate to the bottom of that. Now I have more momentum, I have more force that I'm going to have to overcome in that bottom position in order to change direction and move that bar back towards the top of the next clean pull. Overload doesn't specifically mean weight. Overload is in comparison to what? So you can overload based on weight, you can overload based on speed, you can overload based on time, you can overload based on reps. Overload just means in comparison to whatever it is, the thing that you originally did. That's what we're trying to focus on when I'm talking about doing overload on these. I'm gonna do another set here, and then we're gonna move on to the squats for today. I mean, I'll tell you what, by trying to drop into that bottom position and get out of it as quickly as possible, it really forces you to have to be in a good position. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm allowing this bar to free fall down, and I'm trying to like catch it, decelerate, and explode back up towards the top. So if you're too far forward, that thing's gonna yank you over. If you're too far back, you're gonna feel like it's just kind of burying your hips down. So allowing that bar to kind of drop, catch it, you really feel that you're in that position. I can feel the hamstrings kind of tighten up, the glutes tighten up, and then I'm exploding through. So I really like that kind of focus on catching that bottom position and trying to accelerate back to the top as quickly as possible. All right, next up is gonna be some back squats. And I haven't back squatted in probably, I don't know, since last summer, like a true full range of motion back squat. I've done a lot of squat variations. I did front squats for a while. I did Hatfield squats. I did box squats. I did Anderson squats for a while, but I haven't done like a true just barbell back squat in quite a while. I wanted to get away from it for a little bit and just experiment with other movements. Today, what I programmed was 4 sets of 3 at 70%. What I'm going to add in, because I haven't done back squats in a long time, is I'm gonna make this a little bit more of like a pause rep. So that's gonna allow me to stay a little bit more conservative, still reach the intensity, because I don't think my 70% is a true 70%. I'm estimating my 1 rep max right now to be around like 200, which is kind of a deflated estimation, because let's say I max out right now and I hit 200, which I think could be doable. Maybe it's a little bit higher, maybe it's a little bit lower. But I think what would happen is after about 4 to 6 weeks of training, it's going to increase significantly closer to what like previous numbers were, because that strength is still there. I'm just not used to this specific movement. Like I was doing 280 to 300 kilos on Hatfields, box squatting 250, 260 for multiple reps, front squatting 180 for about 8 reps, I think, during the summer. So the leg strength is still there. It's just that I haven't done this particular movement for the legs in quite a while. So I'm gonna add that pause down at the bottom, and I'm gonna be doing about 160-ish. So 70% of what I estimate my 1 rep max to be right now, 200 should be, yeah, 160. So we're gonna do multiple sets there and then see how it goes. I'll probably do 140 next, see how that pause feels, and then we'll do 160 and we'll start our working sets on that. All right, so 140, this will be my last warm-up set before we start our working sets. I think that slight pause at the bottom will be good. So we'll go to 160. So for those that don't know, if you're new to the YouTube channel or if you just stumbled upon this or for whatever reason, I have a monthly subscription program where those who are subscribed get access to my workouts every week. They get to do similar programming to what I do. This is the first time that myself and those on the subscription program are actually doing the same workouts on the same day. I'm usually about a week or 2 ahead, but like I said yesterday in the video, I took a couple weeks off and just kind of barely trained, didn't sprint a whole lot, wanted to get myself out of the gym a little bit during the holiday season. So that 2-week gap narrowed where I was at versus where the subscribers were at. But I know what's gonna happen is people see this video and they're gonna probably see it either right before or right after they train, depending on what time I can upload it. And they're gonna ask like, you know, pause reps weren't written out on the program. Should I have done pause reps? Or you did box jumps before the workout and you programmed squats and box jumps together. Honestly, those little minute changes don't matter a whole lot. Like if you're gonna do back squats and you wanna add a pause, you're not changing up the entirety of the program at a significant amount. If you're doing box jumps and you do them before the squats, if you want to do them with the squats, then it doesn't really matter as well. The reason why I programmed it the way I did, so today's session, for those that are subscribing, they start off with the clean pulls and then they have a complex of back squats and box jumps. That's because I'm trying to put those sessions together where you guys can get in and out the gym in about 60 minutes. So by supersetting things like back squats and box jumps and putting things together in a certain format, that just is trying to help you guys save time so you don't feel like you have to be in the gym for 1.5 hours to 2 hours. I have the luxury of having a little bit more time, so I don't need to stress about getting in and getting out in the gym as quickly as possible. That's why I can play around and change some things. You're not bound to the program. Like you're not on a contract where if you don't follow the program the exact way that I wrote it out, that I'm gonna come sue you or something. Like if you feel like you wanna change a movement from hang clean pulls to clean pulls from the floor, or maybe you wanted to do sets of 4 instead of sets of 2 and 2. Maybe on the back squats, you wanna add a pause. Maybe you wanna do box squats because you don't like going all the way down. It doesn't matter. Maybe you wanna do leg press because you don't wanna do back squats. It doesn't matter. Most of those changes to the program, as long as you stay within the same number of sets and reps and you're not drastically changing the amount of load, those changes aren't going to significantly increase or decrease what originally was the outcome of the program. Same thing with like the seated box jumps, deep variation versus high variation. None of that really matters. I think people get a little bit too caught up in the nuances. My personal way of programming is I like to experiment with things and try different things and figure it out. Even when I had Chad Wesley Smith doing my programming when I was bobsledding, he would write out a program for me and I would send him back what I did. It was never the same. I always changed things up. I always experimented with something. I added a variation to this and that, but I sent it back to him and he would always be like, yeah, this looks fine. Like, he understood as well as like, what we're doing in the weight room isn't going to be the most important thing you're doing in comparison to what you're trying to do in your sport. And that mindset I kind of carry over in general, even more so for people who aren't playing a sport. Like, if all you're doing is going to the gym and you're training to have fun, all the variations that you choose to do don't matter at all, because you don't have a specific thing that you're training for. Like, we create specificity by setting a goal. So my specificity is, I'm trying to run a fast 40, heavy power clean, heavy squats, bench press, max reps. But that's it. I'm not training to be an NFL athlete. I'm not training to be an athlete in XYZ sport. So we choose our own specificity. So if you want to change some things up, that's fine. Change it up. Have fun with the training. That's part of the process. Plus, it's a huge learning experience by going, oh, I changed this up before and I like this more, or I did this variation and I don't like it that much. There's a lot of valuable information you can do by experimenting with programs and having fun with it. So that's the reason why you guys see me doing a little bit different stuff, is because I would say probably 60% of the time, the way I write a session up is the exact same way that it gets done, right? 40% of the time I'm changing something up. I go, you know what, based on how squats felt today, maybe my RDLs, I go to single leg because I don't want to do double, or whatever it might be. Have fun with it, change it up. Sorry for my little rant right there, but all right, real quick. I think I got 2 sets left, but everyone knows what DOMs are. You do an exercise that you haven't done for a while, or maybe something you have done for a while, you go a little bit heavier, maybe add a little bit more volume. The next day your legs start to feel sore. The day after that is usually the worst, and then it kind of gets a little bit better. So delayed onset muscle soreness. I haven't done back squats in such a long time that I am experiencing immediate onset muscle soreness, to the point where like my adductors are already sore. Like, I can feel the adductors a little bit, not so much in the quads, but just right in that spot. They're already sore and they feel like I squatted 2 days ago. This is a phenomenon that I experience every once in a while, not very often. But anytime I take a significant break away from squats and then I reintroduce them, my adductors pay the price for a long time. So, which is the reason why later on this week, max velocity days are a very low intensity, low volume max velocity day, because I knew this was going to happen. So set number 3, bear with me as I deal with this immediate onset muscle soreness. I can already feel my adductors right now, and I'm not even doing anything. Holy shit. Oh man, they hurt. And it's not like I pulled it. Like it's not an injury. It feels like muscle soreness. Like that burn that you get from your legs being sore from squatting 2 days ago. I have it now, and I started squatting 20 minutes ago. This is gonna be a rough 48 hours, 72 hours, however long. This is not gonna be fun. All right, so as you can tell, I'm no longer doing back squats because I feel like 3 sets of 3 with that pause was more than enough, and I don't want to inflict self-harm upon myself on week 1. So we're moving on to RDLs, and I'm doing a deficit because I watched Will Rattel's YouTube video, I think it was yesterday, I don't know if he uploaded it yesterday, but I saw it yesterday. And he was doing deficit RDLs. So it gave me the idea that I want to do deficit RDLs. Oh, and I'm doing it with a very light weight because I feel like this is just going to add fuel to the fire, to the adductors and the hamstrings and everything else. So we'll see how it goes. All right, set number 2. I feel like I could do a lot more, but I want to be conservative. We're going to stay there for one more set. All right, so next up today is going to be a seated calf raise. And I recently, or I say recently, this is probably about 6 months ago, did a course through Altus called Re-Engineering Sue, where Randy Harrington, who is a coach in track and field, specifically sprints and jumps, worked with a Chinese sprinter by the name of Sue. And Sue ended up running the fastest ever recorded 60 meters out of a 60 meter race, out of a 100 meter race, anything, the fastest ever. I think it was something absurd like a 6.2. And one thing that stuck out to me is when they were doing some of the testing on Sue, they tested a seated calf raise on a Kaizen machine to see how much force and power he can produce. And it was very, 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 very low. Like other women sprinters could beat him. Like there was a very huge lacking number on that seated calf raise. And the reason why they focused on the seated calf raise is because you hit the soleus. The soleus has a lot more ability to accept forces at higher loads than the gastroc. So Randy believes that training the soleus, getting the soleus stronger, can allow you to produce more force, especially in early acceleration. And the reason being is when you are in early acceleration, you're at deeper knee angles. To be able to push and keep that ankle stiff, a lot of that is going to come from the soleus. So if you sit down and you try to flex your calf as hard as you can, I'm cramping up right now. So if you're in a seated position and you flex your calf as hard as you can, the calf is still going to be relatively soft. This muscle right here, the soleus, that's where that tension is going to be at. And even if you stand up a little bit taller, you can see there's still some mushiness to that calf. You start to stand up a little bit taller. Now the calf is starting to get a little bit stiffer. And when you're in a standing position, that calf is totally on. So when you're in a seated position, what you're doing is you're isolating the soleus, you're taking the gastroc out of it a little bit, and that should help with being able to produce more force, accept more forces when the foot hits the ground, be able to overcome those forces to get off the ground with a lot more power and a lot more speed. So this is why I'm doing it today following my acceleration day yesterday. And we're gonna load this up and hit it with some eccentrics. So we're gonna just slowly control it down for 3 to 5 seconds, pop back up to the top and do sets of 10 on these. All right, last thing on the menu for today is a lunge iso. I'm gonna be loading this very lightly and building up over the course of the next 8 to 12 weeks. But we're gonna get into that lunge position, try to get this front knee as close to around 90 degrees as possible. We're gonna add this barbell in, and then we're gonna hold this position for 30 seconds. Trying to keep the shoulders on top of the hips. I'm already shaking. Holy adductors, my leg are going to kill me tomorrow. And then 30 seconds on one side. We'll move it over to the other, do another 30, and we will pay the price for this tomorrow. Dude, it's like a fucking earthquake right now. I can't even control this. Oh. Woo. All right, well, that's gonna be it for today. I'm gonna do a couple more sets of this and then lay on the ground and not do anything for the rest of the day. But I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.